And welcome to News from the Pew, where we take news from around the interwebs and make it so it's a little less frightening. I'm your host, Rick Barrett, and I'm joined, as always, by my colleague, Steve Cunningham from Census Fidelium, censusfidelium.tv. You know all the places to find him. We're also joined this week by Fawaz Yazi, anticipating, we were just talking about it, anticipating his album, which is coming out on the 27th. Also had another great interview. I think it was with one of the Gordons, Tim Gordon this week. So go check out his YouTube channel and check out all his Getting to Know series. They're fantastic. And I am
is Rick still the last?
I was about to say I'm very protective of the fact that I am the least viewed of all of them. I actually do not want that because Margot, he interviewed Margot last week. She was at like 250 by the end of the night. I'm like, yeah,
we have to keep Rick at the bottom.
No, I don't mind being the bottom floor. I think it's actually a privilege to be. You know, it is very humbling for me to.
The last will be first.
I don't think it's when you're viewing, the last one is the first one you see. But either way, I'm very protective of it. I don't ever want anybody to get lower than me, just for their own sake. But regardless, inside joke, please go check out his series. It's fantastic. It's been a very interesting week, especially as far as the political sphere is concerned. As Congress tends to do, they waste their entire term, sessions, whatever you want to call them. Then they wait till the last week before they call it the Christmas tree bills, because they just throw everything into this massive bill. And every year it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. They pass it, and then they all go home for the holiday break because they work so hard to earn it. And this year is no different. This year they're about to vote on, or have voted on, a $1.7 trillion omnibus bill. That's what they call them, which, folks, if you think about it, it's 1/7 the actual national debt, which is $31 trillion, which is very impressive. I think that's a nice little cherry on top of that. And included in this bill is gun control money for Eric Garland and the DOJ to persecute people, money for Planned Parenthood. The list goes on and on and on. And of course, there is money for the most noble of all causes, and that is the fight in the Ukraine that is taking place right now. We're going to actually focus on that in about a moment or two. I just wanted to to get this one out there. And Fawaz, it's no surprise to see that Congress is doing everything it can to spend as much money that it doesn't have on all these useless projects.
Yeah, thank God for the boomers. They had less kids and racked up more debt than we could ever imagine. So we have them to thank. Now a lot of them are on Social Security, they expect us to bail them out. So yeah, they've created such hard times, and a lot of those guys are actually on our elected officials, in which we all vote for. I don't know. And then they get up there and then they pass all these laws to serve us, but they end up serving themselves like always. So who benefited here? Well, of course, it's the Uniparty, and the Uniparty works for who? Yes, the WEF. So this is the big issue that we're facing. We are in 31 trillion in debt. What's going to happen is, once that debt is going to be due, they're going to create inflation once again, making the debt cheaper so they can pay it off for less. And then we foot the bill by our groceries being more expensive, gas being more expensive, wood being more expensive, homes being more expensive. So it's always having the next generation, the next two generations, foot the bill for us today. It's really is a crime with this whole the way the money system works. I wish we were back in the gold standard, because you could actually have something to back it up against. We don't overspend or underspend. Everyone gets an opportunity. But right now we have the fiat, where you could just make up a number, 1.7, which they did vote for today, and 18, I think 17 Republicans, which are what I call the Uniparty. There's no difference between Republicans and Democrats, no difference between conservatives and liberals. At the moment, I think the only thing that the difference is things because politics is just going one side or the other. You have the left versus the right. I don't consider McConnell, Romney, what is it? What's the guy's name? Make something. Make double cheeseburger. I don't expect any of those guys to actually be right. They're just liberals. So they passed it. Has all of these great things on it that they only benefits them. And of course, a lot of it is going to go to Ukraine. And we had Lord Farquaad give a great speech to his donors just yesterday, and we had our great president gave him a nice pat in the bottom. So that was really fun to watch.
It absolutely was. It was good to see the real president, talk to Joe Biden. And ironically enough, you could at least understand Zelensky, which is different than Biden, where everybody's kind of just like, I don't know what he's saying. At least with Zelensky, with the accent, you could still understand when he was demanding money from us. Here's what Rand Paul had to say about the omnibus bill, and then we'll get Steve's thoughts on it.
I brought with me the Omni, 4,155 pages. When was it produced? In the dead of the night, 1:30 in the morning when it was released. Now, people argue that it's conservatives' fault. You don't have the Christmas spirit. Somehow you're holding up government. Well, whose job is it to produce this? The people in charge of spending, the people in charge of both of the parties. When did they know that this would be necessary? Well, it's in the law, September 30th. You got 9 months, almost 10 months, to produce a plan, to have a spending plan. They weren't ready on September 30th, so they voted themselves 90 more days. They weren't ready last week either, so they voted themselves another week. And now we have it at 1:30 in the morning this morning. But what's the clamor? The clamor is to vote. Vote now. Let's get it done. Why are you standing in the way of spending? Well, the real question is this. What is more dangerous? What is more dangerous to the country? $1.1 trillion in new debt, or as Republican leadership likes to say, oh, but it's a win. It's a big win. We're getting $45 billion for the military. So which is more important? Which threatens the country more? Are we at risk for being invaded by a foreign power if we don't put $45 billion into the military? Or are we more at risk by adding to a $31 trillion debt? I think the greatest risk to our national security is our debt. The process stinks. It's an abomination. It's a no good, rotten way to run your government. $6 trillion entity, and they want 24 hours to process this, and then they want to go forward. I will be demanding 2 amendments. One, that this goes against the budget rules. The pay-go rules say you can't do this. You can't have all this new spending unless it's offset. We will also be demanding that the pay-go rules are increased. Instead of taking 60 votes to evade the rules, we're going to ask that it be a 2/3 vote to evade the rules. The American people don't want this. They're sick and tired of it. They're paying for it through the nose with inflation. Adding $1 trillion to the deficit will simply fuel the fires that are consuming our wages and consuming our retirement plans. It's a terrible system. Someone needs to stand up. We're standing up, and we're going to say no.
Is too interconnected and interdependent to allow someone to stay aside and at the same time to feel safe when such a battle continues. Our 2 nations are allies in this battle. And next year will be a turning point. I know it, the point when Ukrainian courage and American resolve must guarantee the future of our common freedom, the freedom of people who stand for their values.
One of the finest speeches I've ever heard in the Congress. It was historic in that he and Churchill are the only 2 wartime presidents who have come here to talk about asking our help and thanking us for our anticipated help to stop the tyranny in Europe. It's pretty exciting. Probably one of their happiest days.
There was some applause line.
Isn't it great?
What a witch. I can't wait till that lady's gone. She's such an absolute, just diabolical woman. But yeah, $110 billion.
All that money, we can't afford a suit. I mean, I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard some good ones. He looked like a owner of a machine shop. I think my favorite one is the guy who looked like the owner of a strip club. That was probably my favorite one from Tucker, saying that. I mean, I'm glad he wore his nicest tight green shirt to meet with the regime leader Biden. So you got to give it to him there. But Steve, who is Steve from Spiritus TV, as I'm told, it's Spiritus TV now.
Brand name change.
It's been rebranded, as some people like to use.
People thought I was in control of the whole thing, and
because Steve's actually in control of all of this. He is the king of Catholic media. Don't let anybody fool you.
I am the one behind the curtain.
He is. But Steve, speaking behind the curtain now, people won't pay attention because it's Christmas season, holiday season. Everybody's going up to debt on their eyeballs for Christmas presents or secular Christmas. Should be a pretty revealing status of events or events that show the uniparty in power, as Fawaz was saying, and the fact that money is no object to these people.
Well, George Carlin talked about that as there's just one party, you ain't in it.
Yeah.
Here's a good one. How much do you need? How selfish are these people? You asking for, we need healthcare, we need housing. Hey, how much do you need? Caitlin Johnstone had a great one about the proxy war continues. Notes from the edge of the narrative matrix. I mean, remember, this guy was flown in a U.S. What kind of plane would it? Defense jet, I guess. One of the planes, a government plane, driven to the White House in a government vehicle, and given the red carpet. Everyone's upset about his sweatshirt, because he's an actor. The whole world's a stage. He has to present the part, play the part, and it's like, standing there with his arm, trying to get flexed in the photo with a couple of the boomers. Here's a little bit more in the omnibus bill too. I mean, $200 million for a gender equity fund. You
like that? Fund. Did you get to the one with the cope, the influenza?
Yep, $335 million.
There it is.
Yep, $335 million for that.
For additional surveillance.
Yep. Yeah. $7.5 million to understand the domestic radicalization and phenomenon, plus another $1 million for gun violence research. Who's doing that research? $535 million for corporate public broadcasting, which funds NPR because they stink so bad. Provision nearly doubles for 66,000 available H-2B visas, temporary low-skilled workers. $11.33 billion for FBI, $1.75 billion for the ATF, $2.63 billion for U.S. attorneys. You know what I'm about to say, right? And $286 billion for Title X funding, which funds Planned Butcherhood, which gets funded every year, even with the last elected monarch. $70 million for minority business development. And why I say that is just because all of a sudden it's okay. The people have come out. Vigano comes out saying Trump, he condemns his LGBT thing. Note to everyone that's in the Trump train or was paid by the Catholics for Trump or whatever for the last 6 years. We do this from day one. Where have y'all been for, I guess, welcome to the party, pal. And you see a lot of people on Twitter all of a sudden, hey, Zelensky is now a bad guy. Man, we've been talking about this for 8 months. Where you guys, did you guys just get okayed to say these things, or your handlers allow you to say this? It's unphenomenal. I put this in.
Look, it's him.
America, if you need starters, spark plugs, ball joints, gaskets, camshafts, U-joints, or rocker arms, anything that can be screwed or glued to that car or truck of yours, come see old Ray. Hey, you want a guarantee? I got a guarantee stamped on every box.
He's got really weird hair.
But more important is the guarantee that I make to the American worker. I want your truck to help you get the job done. I want your cruiser to get out there safely so you can clean up the streets. And I want your kids to be safe when you take them for a ride.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you, son. The name's Zelensky. I make car parts for the American working man because that's what I am, and that's who I care about.
Right from the start, I couldn't stop thinking of Tommy Boy on that.
Yeah.
But hey, we're in a war. We're in we haven't voted for it. This is if you got together with somebody else and gave them money to fund killing somebody else, you'd be an accessory to murder, right? And in the eyes of the law, we are literally giving trillions overseas these guys for are we on the 9th? I think of basketball. We're in the 9th month of the basketball playoffs. We're in the 9th month of this war. What's going on? They say we're not involved on it. Darn right, we are the enemy of those other guys because we are literally giving them weapons, money, all this, and then we say, oh no, we're not involved. Bull. We are. There's a proxy war, as everyone with 2 working brain cells has been talking about it. It hasn't been, we haven't voted on it. It hasn't been Congress approved, but no one cares about the Constitution. So what do I keep saying? Divorce from DC. Everyone is complaining, divorce from CDC. If you're complaining, you see somebody out complaining, Jack, I'm sorry, they had this big,
Amfest?
Amfest.
Oh, so cringe. So cringe.
What was the whole purpose of that? Just to raise money and pat each other on the back? What'd you get out of that? Guarantee 0% chance that anybody there talked about localism, breaking off from DC, declaring independence, or anything like that. There was probably a nationalistic idea to vote harder, put our guy in. Hey, we're getting screwed at the polls. No kidding. What did you expect? What do you think is going to happen in 2024? Here's what's going to happen. Everyone's going to run out, vote again, vote harder, and then they're going to complain 2 months later. Hey, we got hosed again. Yep. I don't know what are you supposed to say to these people. And God forbid you say, hey, why don't we just break away from D.C.? They got, the debt's out of control. They got bubbles coming out. The bubbles are blowing up everywhere. Student loan bubbles going. The housing crisis is coming up. Food, energy. You talk about the World Economic Forum. You talk about everything that's going on. Break away. And there's a solution. It's going to be hard. It's not as simplistic as just that. You got to do more things and then worry about converting your area. But no one's saying that. We got to get DeSantis in at DC. That'll fix everything. Scott Brown's going to do it. You just wait and see. And, but you vote and then you get disappointed. Hey, we're just going to keep voting because that's all we're going to do. It just drives me nuts. It just drives me batty when I want to go to one of these Amfest things or these conservative things. Put me a table out there. I'm going to give out some miraculous medals and do some things that they're not going to like maybe say that the only solution is conversion to the as was the Hillary Belloc said. There's 2 ways to do this: Catholic or chaos. Which one you think we're in? You got everyone saying Happy Hanukkah, no big deal. Happy Rosh, whatever, the Islam thing, no big deal. No, but you say Merry Christmas and you demand everyone else say it. Oh no, you can't be that ecumenical.
I have a very interesting point of view when it comes to...
We've got to ask this question, that you've got a country led by a man who, even before the war, Axios, The Guardian, the Atlantic Council, all of them were reporting that Zelensky, even though he ran on an anti-corruption ticket, has, through the Panama Papers and other such leaks, has stashed his millions offshore like most corrupt oligarchs have. And so even before the war, his corruption was known. And then you fast forward to what he's done over this weekend with the banning of 11 opposition parties. And I want to note at this stage that he banned these opposition parties, including, as you mentioned, Tucker, the second largest in his parliament, while the Nazi elements, and I use the word Nazi, not neo-Nazi, because these are actual Nazis that aren't neo in any sense. They're the continuation of Nazis as we know them and study them in history. And Bandera, the man that they revere, was actually a Nazi, and they've made him into a national hero and icon. The Nazis in Ukraine have not been banned by Zelensky. And so this is a very interesting point, that you've got a man that we're hailing as a democratic icon who's fighting for freedom and democracy in our way of life, banning all opposition parties, controlling through the state the media narrative, while refusing not only to ban Nazis, but having, after not banning them, incorporated them into his state. Azov as a battalion formally serves in the Ukrainian National Guard. Now, people say to that in response, yeah, but Majid, there are racists in every country. No, the analogy here is, imagine, Tucker, in America, the KKK had a formal battalion in the US military. That's what we've got with swastikas and Nazi insignia inside the Ukrainian army. And then people would say, well, what do you want to do? Putin invaded their country. Of course, they have to fight. And I find this line of argument absolutely absurd because
брати і сестри, вони почали боротися з Богом, почали війну проти Бога, проти небеса. А це не українці, брати і сестри. Наша Україна є благодатна Україна віруюча, і вся православна Україна сьогодні.
Remember, that same guy, these guys love, is going after the Ukrainian church out there. Now, I don't know if I don't know if they're the schismatic guys or the St. Basil, the Catholic Rite guys, but he's going after them. And if you're these ecumenical guys, where this at? And, Biden's over there putting the Hanukkah stuff up, saying, "Hey, happy Hanukkah, all you Jews out there." He'll go out of the way. Google will go out of the way to put a thing up on their front page, like Happy Hot Dog Day or whatever it is. But Zelensky literally goes after these guys. And again, I don't know if these are the schismatics or not, but in secular world, that shouldn't be. They would be going after it. And if they imagine Trump doing that, what would the outcry be?
They actually might get on board with him if he did that. That actually might. They probably would have all voted for him if he did that. But yeah, it doesn't matter. They're still going after a representation, even if it's not in communion with Rome. It's still, to the outside world, it is still a place of God. And the fact that he banned the opposition party, like you heard. He's going. I mean, the guy's first of all, he's an actor. He's not doing any of this of his own volition. He's like Joe Biden. He's just signing the pen. He's just signing the papers that are put in front of him. He's a figurehead. That's all he is. He's doing whatever is being told of him. And it doesn't shock us that this proxy war against the Russians, which, I'm not going to qualify. I'm not a pro-Russian. It doesn't matter. But it doesn't. The fact that they're continuing this, and on one hand, the U.S. is giving all these weapons and money and all these things to the Ukraine. Now, on the other hand, they're begging the European Union not to cut off the Russian oil supplies, which are supposed to happen sometime this week. They know that because as soon as they do that, everything's going to go into a chaos mode. It's going to get even worse than what we're looking at right now, which is why Biden went to the Venezuelans and said, yeah, you guys can start pumping oil again because we actually need it. Not the 99 billion barrels that we have in Midland, Texas right now, or in East Texas. We have enough oil for 100 years. We got to go to Venezuela to get all that done. So I guess the point of this segment, folks, is politicians are corrupt. This whole thing is a mess. Nullification, interposition, secession are all your options going forward. And the end goal of all of those is to convert and get as many souls back to the Catholic Church as possible, because that's the only way out. Because right now you're seeing the results of secular society, and it's an absolute mess. So speaking of a mess and speaking of fundings,
Rick, can I add something?
Absolutely, jump in.
Sorry, brother. I just wanted to say, I mean, as Stephen, you guys were talking, it's funny we're talking about the petrodollar and just $1.7 trillion and money coming out of nowhere. It doesn't surprise me because the world is going to function in accordance to how society, as individuals that make up a society, their disposition and their, I guess what we call their disposition device, it's going to reflect according to how we are and how the society is going to work. You're not going to have a virtuous system if you don't have virtuous men. So I just wanted to share that. I mean, it's it's perfectly makes sense. Trump, Biden, these are the presidents we deserve because they reflect the individual, the devices that we all have that make up an entire system, and this is the leaders that we get.
Yeah, get the leaders we deserve. Yeah.
Garbage in, garbage out, right, Steve? From Carlin. You know, these are the same people from universities, from public schools, from your communities. These are the people you're voting in, which is why Carlin
and
was
for
always
us, take
against
it a step further. For us, the church, we get the leaders we deserve. Everyone's out there complaining, putting Twitter, hey, you know, this stinks, we don't like this priest, we don't like that bishop. Is that virtuous, or is that virtuous to do that for laity? I mean, it shows right there we deserve probably what we're getting. We deserve from the papacy down until we merit a good holy priest. I mean, garbage in, garbage out. If we are putting in garbage, what do you think God's going to give you? That's the whole line of what was John Eudes quote. It's it's a testament of God's anger when he gives the lady priest that are more the bad priests that are priest in name only.
Yeah.
But
So
we don't like
the way out of this is we've said ever since the show started, the way out of this is virtue.
Mm-hmm.
And
in your family and moving
here's
out.
full disclosure. I went after Fawaz at the beginning of this thing because of his Holy 40 project, because he was so big on pushing virtue and things like that. You tell this guy, hey, man, teach us virtue. He's got it down. Check out, I did an interview with him a couple years ago. Check out his website. Father Harville vouch for him. That was the main thing. I can go ahead with the news things, and Rick can too. And Fawaz, that's why I told him, spin it in some kind of virtue that you can find and pump it out. So that's the whole purpose of this. But we got the people, you listening, got to push if a coach gives you ideas, you got to put it into. I just found out that the word, darn it, I just went stupid. Is exercise. I'm reading one of this book from the Eastern Fathers, and he says asceticism is exercise. He puts it into sports wise. An athlete will exercise this to get here. Same thing with that, and we got to do more of this.
Also, and Steve is correct that you got to convert, and everybody's correct, but I think we also have to reinforce the place to start is the home. Is your home. You are not gonna convert, you are not gonna change, and you are not gonna be a light to anybody else if your home life is a wreck. And if you are not doing the things in your home, whether you are the wife or the child or the husband, if you are not lining up according to how the order is supposed to be, it doesn't matter what you're doing anywhere else, because you are betraying that. If everybody focused on their own individual homes, that those homes become pillars of the community. The community is then stronger. So all of these things are great. You got to be careful of having too big of it. I'm going to go convert the world, but my home life is a wreck. Be careful of that and make sure that is that foundation. As long as that foundation is secure, you can do anything.
Correct. Absolutely.
I think sometimes, and that may go, Steve, to some of our Twitter people. Our Twitter people want to change the world by tweeting, but it's like, well, what about and I'm not saying anybody's home life is bad on Twitter. I don't know any of these things, folks. I'm not casting dispersions on anybody. I'm using as a general example. I must put that disclaimer out there. We don't know, but these people are so busy trying to do all these things. But what about your home life? I mean, some of you may not like it. Saint Teresa of Calcutta would say, well, good would it do if you went out and converted the whole world if your home life is a wreck? If your family is.
How many people tweet all day long and then jump on Mother Teresa?
Yeah.
over an interview that, is okay, guys, go live in Calcutta for a week and see if you can come back. Okay. You can't go a day without tweeting.
They tried to get after her because the one time she talked to Hillary Clinton at the prayer breakfast. And
that's a new one. Yeah. There's other things they've gone after, but still, if you tweet that much and go after her, it's one of those. I just heard a priest say, you talk about, he goes, I'm afraid in these times when people are doing that, because who are these people? They're Catholics that are even trashing her. It's one of those check yourselves before you wreck yourself type deal thing, guys. I mean,
but it's very difficult, because I think a lot of times when you see such a recent saint, and the social media and the TV, everything, her lifestyle was just so magnified that she wrote her book and everything. But the issue is, when we look back in the scholastic days, and we don't know too much about their lives, so we see them intact as perfect as they are, as the saints that they are. So I think it makes it difficult for us to see her as a saint, because we saw her flaws in real time, which is absolutely wrong, because if you go back and you look at all those saints, you would have picked something at that time to gripe about too, no matter who the human was, because guess what? They were saints in training. They were becoming holy. So I think you're right. I think it's unjust the way they treat her.
I mean, if you had seen Saint Ignatius of Loyola on his journey from soldier to saint, when he wrote about the days when he failed in being a prideful soldier or wanting to have those, he failed multiple times on his way to sainthood. Same with Saint Francis, same with all of them. It's just that they didn't have Twitter or they didn't have Instagram being like, gotcha. So it's weird in that regard. And so that's why that the idea is, folks, to focus on your home, focus on your family, and make sure that pillar is as strong as it can be. And if everybody did that, and we all, of course, we all lived in closer communities, and those communities could build out, which is another problem Steve, I, and Fawaz and others have talked about, the fact we're all kind of just spread out way too thin, which is even more of a reason why your family, your home, your little country, right, whatever it is, needs to be as strong as possible because of that. And so it's very trying to try and see people not focus on the most important thing. God bases everything on a family, but Holy Family, right? Look at the Holy Family and how they were such a of course, I'm using the most perfect man ever, the most perfect woman ever, and the God man as an example. So my standards aren't too high, right?
You bring up tweeting and think locally, act locally. All right, how many people in the last couple of days were not touching a topic that everyone else is touching? Because I mean, it's all out there. We don't have to bring up more than what everyone else has. But all over Twitter, what is everyone's focus? I put a screenshot of Dom Garanger for Christmas because I ended up reading that the last 3 days into the still got to edit the darn thing. And he brings up how the nativity was on a Sunday, which correspond to the creation of light, and how it went ... kind of editing some things out. That if it falls on a Sunday, you should even have more joy and it should be more for you than any time else. And we got that this Sunday. Yeah. And how many people don't know? I said that to a lot of priests. They didn't know that he wrote that. So I guarantee most of them didn't know that. But how many people were talking about that versus this other story of a priest? It's not even close. It's the Yankees versus the Durham Bulls and the number on that level right there. The Durham Bulls being Garanger. Everyone else is talking about this, and you sort of tweet out. You get anger, you get hatred, you get people making names of each other. People are calling this guy name, this guy name, this guy name. You're a fool. You're this. There's everyone's no one has a clue what's going on except what's Rome and him. But everyone's getting all bent out of shape. And then when the liturgy wars get involved, everyone knows the virtuous stuff that comes out of that. It's just nothing but evil that comes out of these things. As one guy says that social media brings in your inner a-hole. And you see that. Read Garanger or read the church fathers and things. They'll say quotes like, they will know them. Look at how much they love each other. Those are how much they love each other. Can you say that about them on Twitter?
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, also, Steve, with this Sunday being Christmas, what's the question most people are going to say? This one counts, right? If
I've already seen people say, if I go here, does this
count if I go to this mass? And
if you read this guy, he's talking about people that went to all 3 masses.
Yeah. The joy that you would get.
They didn't bring their infants because in one story he talks about there's one home that has a kid that's his first time being old enough to go to midnight mass. So you didn't drag your 3 or 4-year-old to a midnight mass because people are saying, oh, I can't bring it because of family. Well, these guys walked or rode in the snow and on horseback to mass. And then they went early, sang with the choir, went to midnight mass, got home, got up early to do it all over again for the Aurora, went and sung some more, and then went to the 3rd mass. Going, man, we're complaining about which one do we go to.
We're complaining about which one we go to and how long it is. Is this one? Yeah. I don't want to go to this mass. I want to go. It's like an hour and a half because they do extra singing and they did a creed and they got Gloria.
And he mentions then about how even in his time that people would wish for the joys of Christendom back then. Imagine him being us today.
No.
It goes back to what Philosopher saying, do we deserve this? Are you a Megan Rapinoe? I deserve this.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the Rapino. But it's an interesting way to look at it because, yes, absolutely, we should have nothing but joy, especially, and it's also how far off we are as a society from what should be the most important thing. Life should center not around gifts and not around Christmas parties. And folks, I'm not saying Christmas parties are bad and all this other kind of stuff. Fine, have them. It's great. What should be the focus though? Church. What should be the focus? Your life around the church and the fact that due to urbanization and all this other kind of stuff, we're so far out that it just becomes another checkbox that we have to fill with that. But yeah, that's an interesting little segue. Now we're just gonna have to segue hard into our next story because there's no way to connect those. In the West Texas town of El Paso and across the southern border, there's this thing called Title 42 that's been in place since the Trump administration and the beginning of COVID. Now this is going to end thanks to the omnibus bill getting passed. And if you don't know what's going on in the city of El Paso, we can show the video right now. Since August of this year, 10,000 illegal immigrants have crossed into El Paso and then been released because there's no room for them. And from what I've read, there's about 20,000 additional illegal immigrants in Juarez waiting for Title 42 to expire because there will be no asylum protocols. It will just be everybody in, everybody gets in, no problem. So Greg Abbott has these are all things in name only. He has put the National Guard down there. He's put some razor wire and some Humvees, but all they're doing is corralling everybody to the bridge, the El Paso International Bridge, to process them through. Nobody's actually being stopped. And I think I sent you see if you want to play the one with these are some of the random camps that have just popped up. This is just random camps, folks. There is no order. There is no organization. These people are just being let in and let out on the streets. Catholic Charities in El Paso can't handle them. No, none of these NGOs can handle them.
Looks like San Francisco.
Yeah, right. Nope. This is El Paso, Texas, ladies and gentlemen. My wife is from there. It was such a gorgeous town.
Denver's like that. It's not as bad, but Denver's like this too.
Yeah. And
folks right across from the Capitol, and it's just nothing but homeless. It's like a homeless park.
Yep. This is all in downtown El Paso. And ladies and gentlemen, this was 2 days ago. The polar bomb vortex thing that's hitting us all right now. All these people are going to be out in the cold exposed tonight when it goes from 65 to 8. What's going to happen to all these people because of Biden and because of our system that has just been so compassionate to let them in? Half these people are probably going to be dead by the morning. And I'm not trying to be macabre or any of this stuff, but the lack of law, the lack of order, and the people you'll hear from certain corners that saying we have to let them in because it's compassion. These people freezing to death in El Paso overnight is not compassion. Yeah, that's another view of people just walking across. That's a Rio Grande right there, walking across the Rio Grande and just being processed through and then thrown into the streets of El Paso because the detention facility for CBP, Customs and Border, is about 1,500. I'll say that again. It's about 1,500. There's about 5,000 people in that detention center. And then the rest of them are just being released into the streets. And as you saw, they're just piling on top of each other. So it's an awful situation. It is a terrible situation, and nobody cares. Nobody cares about it because the elites, the left loves the voting that's coming in here. The right loves the cheap labor that's coming in. So they're all going to watch these people come in. They're going to process them, push them out. And I'm sure it's happening in New Mexico, in Arizona, and in California. It's just that El Paso right now, they've kind of focused on that as a choke point and overrun it. And I mean, folks, talking about an invasion, Rand Paul was talking about an invasion. There is an invasion. 10,000 so far, 20,000 sitting in Juarez waiting for Title 42. That's 30,000 people that are going to come through. I think it was 4 million since 2020 that they know of, that they've been able to keep track of. So it's very interesting. Not interesting. It's an absolute tragedy, Fawaz, to see this happen in real time, because it's being done under the guise of charity, but it's not charitable in any way.
No, because you're absolutely right. Thanks for saying that. Because acceptance and tolerance has become a blanket for all things that are charitable. Even though charity requires, of course, rules and laws, and all of these things. And I will say this, I don't want to bring up the whole the current situation that we had with the laicizing of the priest by his bishop. But for the people who think that we're such a merciful, incredibly merciful church now, and before Vatican II, we were just so rigid and in the rules. And Saint Pio got to keep his faculty to celebrate Mass when he was stripped of his faculties. He was able to celebrate Mass in private. So that very rigid, horrible, non-compassionate church before Vatican II was actually more compassionate towards Saint Pio than the acceptant and the tolerant, inclusive the church that we have today. So what you have is, when you take these things away, which the church has a law, the church has a canon law. Of course, the Pope is above canon law. The church has its laws. And these laws are meant to be laws for compassion, because you can't let human beings go outside of the scope of what they're created to do, like fish out of water, and expect them to thrive and to go in holiness. At the same time, it's going to reflect in the public sphere, politically. You can't have a nation without laws, because no longer becomes a nation anymore. There is no such thing as the United States of America. I mean, look what happened yesterday when Lord Farquaad was giving his speech. They took out a Ukrainian flag, because nowadays every flag is an American flag except for the American flag, because we're supposed to be a melting pot. There's no such thing as America. It is whatever you want it to be. That's not a nation. So don't be surprised if the borders are open, because what's the point? It's just a thin line. You just come on in, but who suffers? The people who are part of this nation, the people who were born here, who've been here for such a long time. They're the ones who get to say who comes in, how many come in, what's the whole point. And again, like you said, it's the uniparty. They're the ones that end up benefiting from this. The Democrats, they're gearing up for 2024. They want as many votes as possible from these folks. And when they're taking them, a lot of times they go to Texas. They want to turn Texas from purple to blue. And I'm sorry, but like this, this stunt that also messed up with life that Abbott and DeSantis played. That's all nice and dandy for your supporters to cheer you on and give you some more money, but what did that do? Nothing. It didn't create. It wasn't even a dent. So, but it's bad. It's bad at the border, not only because it's bad for the nation, but it's also bad for these poor folks, these poor people that don't mean anything to the uniparty. To them, it's just like you said, cheap labor and votes. To them, they might as well put a barcode and a number on the back of their head. That's what they mean to them. Because we're not a Christian nation. We don't have Christian charity. If we did, then we would have charity for these people rather than just using them for our own props. So it's all bad, unfortunately. I don't. If I was in charge, I would probably, to be honest with you, I'd stop immigration for at least 5 years completely, and just say we gotta deal with home, like you said, Rick. We got to deal with home first before we start taking all of these things in, and be as charitable as we can to other countries in their countries to help them thrive in their countries. We're taking people who grew up in culture and tradition, and we're bringing them over here and saying there's no such thing as culture and tradition. You can be whatever you want to be, because it's America. It's wrong, and it's unfortunate.
Learning about what happens here.
Target with food.
You get a
medical
card.
Assent,
you get a card with
medical
food?
Addons. Anything else?
So food and medical. those are things that you're told that when you get here, you'll be taken care of. And is your family right now getting help?
Yes.
Yes.
My sister, she did the same travel than me, but with 6 months, like pregnant. And she did all the process. And now the boy is an American boy and have benefit like food, target with money, and many other things. Cause she born in America. She's American now, and my sister have benefit like for that.
The Supreme Court has temporarily blocked the lifting of Title 42, which is used by the Trump administration to declare a medical emergency to prevent illegal aliens from entering the country en masse. And remember, it was the Biden administration that filed a lawsuit in order to get Title 42 lifted. And also, let's remember that during the debate, Biden said there would be a surge on the border and that asylum seekers would be welcome.
I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
But ABC News is blaming anybody and everybody other than Joe Biden.
You talk about the border wall, you talk about open borders. I don't think I've ever heard President Biden say, we have an open border, come on over. But people I have heard say it are you.
Epoch TV. Yeah, except Joey B, he was more than happy to say that. And yeah, those are your Humvees. They're great. You have your wire. That's fine. I'm a little bit of an extremist in this regard. I think if you had a real governor, the governor would go to CBP and say, do not let any of these people in. And when they say, oh, well, it's a federal government, arrest them, toss them in jail. You have enough Texas National Guard troops, arrest them, throw every single CBP agent that won't cooperate in jail and shut the border down. That's what you need to do. You need to act like an independent nation because the federal government is not helping you. And it is causing harm to the people that are coming. It's causing harm to the city of El Paso. There's no positive benefit all the way around. So for me, I would literally toss every single one in jail until they got the message and then close the fences, close the border, shut it down, toss them back. And that's not because I'm a cold, heartless person. It's because right now there is so much damage being done all the way around. The elites don't care at all.
What do you do if you declare independence from the tyrannical government of the DC? I don't know. Maybe you can do whatever you want at your southern border.
Once we declare independence from DC, Steve, I've said it on the show. We're building a 10-foot wall. We're putting a moat in front of it. We're putting landmines in front of the moat, and I'm putting Gatling guns every six feet.
It's simple. I mean, I don't not the poo-poo on Fawaz saying talk about nation. We are not a nation. This is not a nation. It's a federal republic. Now that whole one nation thing has been conned in our heads. We've just been propagandized to think that we are one nation. We are the new USSR. Because think about it, if we are one nation, we are US. Just eliminate the state lines, put up one blob on there from east to west, and just destroy everything. And now you're just ruled by a 10-mile square called DC, just like USSR had St. Petersburg, Moscow. I mean, ruled by the Kremlin. That's the DC of the USSR, and that's the whole thing. Now, if you use federalism, states act like states, which it was the states that created the feds, the federal government. The states gave the power to create DC. Now, if Texas acted like Texas and say, you know what, bye-bye. We're going to take care of this. This is an emergency, what like your governor has said, who is the president of the country of Texas. If they would just do that, he was like, all right, this is a no-brainer. This is not even a story anymore. He goes down and does what he wants to do, but it's political on both ends.
Yeah.
Here's Mike Lee talking about the amendment saving Title 42 had the votes to pass with all GOP plus Mancini and Semena. Schumer then paused the vote and twisted arms, told they flipped their votes, and the amendment failed. Okay, again, think locally, act locally, federalism. If you're Texas, you know what? We're done. Schumer doesn't live here. Pelosi doesn't live here. Biden doesn't live.
Romney doesn't live here. None of them do.
None of them do. Go pound sand. we're doing what we want to do. But you want to come? All right, come here to make us do it. You know, it's the whole idea of what was it? Was it Johnson? President Johnson made his bed. Now he can come down in there and sleep in there, whatever the line was. All right, you come. Here's our line. You invade us, we're coming at you. And again, that goes, you know, maybe we have to talk about federal lands, this and that and the other, which was a dumb idea to begin with. And maybe you have to get some bases out, but you eliminate that problem. What can Texas do? What can those people in southern Texas do? All right. Who cares what DC says? We're doing this. And that's the whole idea of make it look like, and it just goes down even smaller. That's why you're a sheriff. Your sheriff has more power than the entire federal government put together. Somebody comes in your area and your sheriff says, get out. They have to get out. Mm-hmm. There's no somebody else can overrule it. No, he has a ton of power. And most people do not know that. That's why when you vote, that's why your sheriff, if you look at the chief of police versus your sheriff, the chief of police is usually a woke election, woke vote, or a woke appointee, like maybe some little lady. But your sheriff looks like a bruiser. He's not going to be. You look at all the sheriffs across this great land, and you're going to see pretty much the same, maybe a different flavor, different color, different size, but they're going to be the same. They're going to be a hard-nosed dude.
Also because those sheriffs are elected by you.
They are elected by them. Yeah, the chief of police is appointed, so it's going to be a woke vote or woke.
There was a guy on YouTube. I forgot. He's a reporter. I don't know. I forgot. He went on a ride along with an Arizona sheriff, who was going around the Navajo areas, and he was talking about that. And even that sheriff said the federal government doesn't like us. The federal government is trying to pay cities and counties to try and get rid of us because we don't answer the feds. We don't answer them. We answer to the public. We answer to our constituents, which is why a good attorney general, if you can vote on one of those, like Ken Paxton's fine. He does some things here and there. And a sheriff, those are your two defenses right now that you have. Those are the only defenses you have right now in this current climate, because they're the ones, like you said, Steve, if a sheriff doesn't, that was I was actually listening to a guy who was in California. He still lives in California. I think it was in Orange County or whatever. His sheriff in Orange County or wherever he lived was like, yeah, we're not doing Corona stuff. You know, even though everybody thought California was this, that, and the other thing, that sheriff was like, nah, we ain't doing it here. I'm not enforcing it. And so that was a little enclave of sanity around everything else. And so it's vitally important, you know, your local officials and what they can do for you, and so forth. And it's an absolute shame to see what's going on.
There was a line just popped in my head from it was a movie. Was it the Eagle? They're out. It was a Roman soldier and a pagan slave, and they were in the woods, and they were just trying to find food. I can't remember how they got there, and the slave kills a rat and cooks it, and he hands it to the Roman soldier, and he goes, "I ain't eating that." He goes, "Well, die," because I'm a Roman. I can't eat something like that. He goes, "Well, die a Roman." So kind of like in this situation, are you a USA? Well, die USA chatter, because this thing is going down, whether you like it or not. Katie bar the door. Last one with the check pays. The best idea is to get out, fix your own currency, because again, that eliminates a lot of globalism. If you get somebody good in your governorship, you get real people in your state house that you see all the time. You think look act locally, people in your area to live, and you hold them accountable for all this. You eliminate a lot of this nonsense coming down. You have somebody that stands up to the climate, the global warming. Well, it's 4 degrees below zero in most places. People, you can win this, but it's hard. It's not popular. Everyone wants to vote DC, go to DC, look at all the things that are going on there. I mean, they've been lying to you for decades, obviously. I mean, think about this. Just
to find out. We spoke to someone who had access to these still hidden CIA documents.
This was nuts to talk about a year ago. And we talk about it. Now it's on mainstream news.
The person was deeply familiar with what they contain. We asked this person directly, did the CIA have a hand in the murder of John F. Kennedy, an American president? And here's the reply we received verbatim. Quote, "The answer is yes. I believe they were involved. It's a whole different country from what we thought it was. It's all fake." It's hard to imagine a more jarring response than that. Again, this is not a, quote, conspiracy theorist that we spoke to. Not even close. This is someone with direct knowledge of the information that once again is being withheld from the American public.
You can watch more of it if you want to go it. The Hill has a video on what's his face? Oswald and his connection to CIA. So used to be, that was how the idea of conspiracy theory came from, was people that were talking about.
It was actually invented. It was
invented because
invented for Kennedy. It didn't exist before the Kennedy.
Coined because now all of a sudden people make fun of it on sitcoms, regular TV shows, it's now mainstream. All the news places are talking about it. So if you think, these guys are honest to me, just get out, find a way. This should be a Catholic idea of subsidiarity. Get out of the tyrannical DC. We fight tyrants. Now we embrace them. This is like an unhappy marriage that you're getting abused by the husband. Now, people will say, now there's good separation, need to get out of this. Why is it this? Why is this an eternal, marriage that we have to leave from? I'm not for divorce, but I'm for this kind of divorce.
Sorry, brother. The funny part about it is these are the same Catholics that are talking about divorce from the Vatican, but don't divorce from DC. I mean, and you guys brought up a good point here. All the trad, pipe smoking, heavyweight lifting men who have some common sense left in this world. If you don't have a good sheriff in your town, you go be that sheriff. I got a great sheriff, and I live in a small town, Kentucky, small town Americana. We got a great sheriff here. If all of the trad Catholics men ran for sheriff, easy fix of the country right there.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. Or run for your alderman on your city council, or like in my area where I live, they look for volunteers. They're like, hey, we just need people to volunteer to be aldermen and stuff like that. Because it's like the same group of people.
Like Dwight Schrute.
That's right. So it's a commitment, but yeah, how willing are you to step into? Because it's easy, like Steve said, it's easy to run to the poll, pull the lever for the Republicans, and be like, I did my job. Now I can go back to watching NFL Sunday Ticket and eating boneless chicken wings, which I actually enjoy boneless chicken wings, but still, but people just want to go back and watch Top Gun Maverick, which comes out today. But the whole point is that it's a very American solution. And just pull the lever for the team you like, and then you can go back to your own life. You don't have to do anything else besides that. We'll do it for you. Don't worry. But yeah, you should worry, because pulling the lever for both sides, and we'll mention it real quick. Then you get things like the FBI running Twitter. So there's the latest release of the Twitter files, which we don't cover a lot of because a lot of it's just stuff we already knew, talking about conspiracy theories. But this one literally this one was a verbatim showing how I think it was 25 to 27 people, former, and I hate air quotes, but FBI employees were working at Twitter and literally taking money from Twitter. And somebody said the other day, I think it was Megyn Kelly, hey, has anybody noticed there's a lot more ads on Twitter? Yeah, sweetheart, that's because the federal government's not paying or not bankrolling Twitter anymore. So they actually have to get their money from somewhere else. I keep saying it. Do you think Amazon became $1 billion company from selling spray fans from China? No, they got their money from government cloud contracts.
What's the definition of fascism?
What?
What's the definition of fascism?
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Government and big business colluding together?
Yeah. And of course, if Steve scrolls down, the FBI response is fantastic, because Elon Musk, and I'm once again not a huge Elon Musk, he's showing all this stuff, but the FBI is like, how dare they say this? They're like, no, we didn't do any of that. And people are like, we've seen it. So
yeah. They said conspiracy theories and disinformation is what FBI said. Back to the playbook.
That's it. And so that's what you're seeing, folks. When you're pulling the lever, and you're going back to your life, this is the stuff that's happening behind your back. They're doing psyops for other countries. They're controlling narratives. They're controlling everything that you see and forming public opinion against you or for you, however it is.
Just like on TV now. I mean, if someone got in trouble or people were getting after him for saying, how come there's so much interracial marriage families on TV commercials? And Paul Joseph Watson and what's his face, Dave Cullen from Ireland, were talking about this for over a year now. And you're seeing it now in the U.S. TVs. And my wife brought it up one day. She likes watching these shows, these murder mystery shows. And in between them, it's nothing but, I mean, it's literally interracial to the part of one race, and the other kid's a completely different race. Like, how'd that happen? What? I mean, but it's just getting it's social conditioning going in there, and they always have to have now not the token black guy, the token gay couple. You always have to have the gay couple. Every TV show has to have it. Every game show has to have it. Every commercial has to have it, and it is flat, blatant, right out in your face.
Well, that's because of GLAAD, the gay, lesbian, blah 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 alliance. They have criteria that they give to each studio to make sure that stuff's involved. And as a man who is proudly in an interracial marriage to a beautiful Mexican woman, even we're like, really? Like that many? Because I mean, we're not out of the ordinary. Of course, you know, Mexican and Irish Italians aren't. It's not really like too far off. We're all ethnic food and Catholic, so it's kind of like the same thing.
It's just being played. They're just pushing it in. But
it's really obvious.
Yeah.
And it's always
it's just weird because, like I said, it's 3. It's not even like all right, say you have that and you have it because you see it every day anyway. It's no big deal. But all of a sudden, the kid is complete. It's like a Korean kid with a black dad and a white mom. Like, how'd you get that?
Milkman. That's the milkman. That's all that is. And then but yeah, it's whatever it is, it's the social conditioning. That's why, Steve and Fawaz, in 7 years, I don't know who somebody tracked this out. The civil rights movement for blacks took 10, 15 years, 20 years to actually, when they were actually actively involving and marching to get some change. Even the gay rights movement, that was 10, 15 years of slowly. Trans, 7 years. 7 years. It went from no, that's not something anybody's really into to being enshrined into federal law this month. And that is an amazing. That could not have happened without a controlled narrative from social media, entertainment, politics, everybody. Right. So that's the greatest example of social conditioning. And I mean, and of course, the other one is COVID. In 3 weeks, everybody went from, I don't think I need to mask, to wearing like a mask, a shield, spraying Lysol in front of your face and locking yourself in your car. And everybody did it like that. So it exists as long as you allow these people to have that control over your life.
Correction, majority of people. Not everybody, because I don't think anybody on here was doing that, but the majority.
No, I ain't playing that. Homie don't play that. Homie don't play Matt.
We got to do a show with all. I got all the air quotes that Rick has done.
I hate him, but I end up using them. It's like a bane of my existence. But yeah, so that's pretty interesting in that regard. And speaking of COVID, let's throw that Tim Robbins thing in here, because that was a pretty interesting quote from Tim Robbins. He was on with whatever that guy's the comedian, and the guy was trying to be like the Joe Rogan in England.
Russell Brand.
Yeah, Russell Brand. And it's Tim Robbins, say whatever you will, but he's 100%. We turned into a tribal, angry, vengeful people.
Yeah, it was a good interview.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, give him credit for that. Give him credit for saying something like that, because it is true. And you could argue that was part of their plan to further divide.
And here's something for you. Russell has how many millions of viewers on there? How does this video not get banned from YouTube? I got 2 just because one priest said the word. On the thing. I got hit.
It's all about you, Steve. It's all about you, buddy.
Millions. This thing's got millions of views.
Yep,
and it's still monetized. How? As one friend of mine tells me, it's controlled opposition. I go, that's the only answer I could think of.
Oh, they need the ads. They'll make more money off of millions of views off of ads. YouTube will than.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they will. Yeah, but it's just how do you change that algorithm? Because I mean they have the thing on there. You click on the medical misinformation, it's poof.
He's probably got an exemption because he's a celebrity, and allowing him to say it. Well, allowing him to say it gives YouTube the cover of being objectively neutral. So that way, when people are like, "Oh, they're going after this," like, no, look at this video. We have him, and we have Tim Pool, and we have these 5 other people that we allow. How about that? With that to actually speak on it.
I don't let the C word on my channel. Much less the V word or anything else.
We have to bow our heads when we say it. It's coming.
That's right. Genuflect when it's said. But that's very interesting in that regard. But yeah, if you have time, check out that video because it's celebrities. I'm not a big fan of saying, oh, it's great because a celebrity said it. It's actually a pretty objective look at how that goes. So got to give credit where credit's due.
He goes from one extreme of thinking everything is the world into, you know what? I think they're lying to us. I think this is getting something's wrong here.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of people that have been thinking. The T word is not very popular to say.
No, it's not. But looks like we'll begin to wrap up. If you want to give us a saint of the week and a cry room, and if you want to throw anything else in there, my friend, we'll start wrapping this up.
Yeah, thank you. My cry room, I'm gonna put in LeBron James in there, only because I just got just hyped up when I did the interview with Tim Gordon. He's such a big basketball, great encyclopedia. It was really fun talking to him, and I grew up watching this sport. And so, I'm going to throw. And the Lakers have just been tanking under the leadership of the greatest Chinese player in the NBA, LeBron James. So, I'm gonna throw him in there. As far as saint goes, I don't really have one, to be honest with you. It's been that type of week. But here's the thing. I'll throw this. It's almost Christmas. I'm gonna put Our Lady in there. How can you not? Greatest saint of all time. So I'm gonna put her as the saint of the week. No, nothing much else to add other than the fact that when you have individuals who are living a life of vice, because vice is just the extreme two ends of excess and defect, and virtue is the mean. When you have individuals living a life of vice, extrapolate that and just combine, multiply that by billions of people. If you want to look at the West, you have a few billions. Our decision making and our will, according to the disposition that we have inside, it's going to reflect, and you're going to have a society that's going to be almost unbearable to live through. And anybody who has any common sense can look and say, what's going on? I don't fit in this world. That's because you have some virtue and some common sense to know, like, this is not how it's supposed to work. And God has decreed this from the very beginning of time by His foreknowledge. So I just say, build virtue, trust in God, and don't worry about anything else.
Awesome. Steve, what do you got?
For the cry room, I was going to go with Tedros, but I'll go with which one are you going with? You going with the
me? I'm going to put Zelensky in there.
Okay, I'll go with UK.
Before I ask you any questions about what's going on today, I have to caution you, which is just your rights, which is you do not have to say anything. It may harm your defence if you do not mention one question, something which you later on in court. Anything you do say may be given. What are you here for today?
Physically, I'm just standing here.
Okay. Why here of all places? I know you don't live nearby.
But this is an abortion centre.
Okay, that's why you're stood here. Is you standing here part of the protest?
No, I'm not protesting.
Are you praying?
I might be praying in my head out loud.
So I'll ask you once more, will you voluntarily come with us now to the police station for me to ask you some questions about today and other days where there are allegations that you've broken public spaces protection?
If I've got a choice, then no.
Okay, well then you're under arrest on suspicion of failing to comply with the Public Spaces Protection Order, which is under the Antisocial Behaviour Crime and Policing Act 2014. Now, of course, you do not have to say anything. It may harm your...
So they arrested her for praying in her head out across the street from her abortion mill, and I can't remember the place in England.
Thought control.
Yep.
3 cops to take her in.
Yep, she's deadly. She is a threat to public safety. Unbelievable.
For my Saints of the Week or Saint of the Week, I'll go with the 20,000 Martyrs of Nicomedia. If anybody knows those guys, they were
nope.
What was it? Diocletian, and they basically told them to go pound sand. They were going to go to mass. They were going to go to worship, and they all gathered in the church. And the emperor decided to burn the church down. And so they died on December 25th, 303, I think it was 303. And you're not going to hear a sermon on them because of obviously the nativity, but they died for Christ our Lord on the nativity, the light of the world, which I would say, read Garageo again. That would be so edifying for you. And, have Merry Christmas, everybody. And I can't wait to turn on Christmas music because I haven't done it all of Advent, and I'm looking forward to cutting the lights on inside. I don't think we're going to decorate outside because it's a pain in the neck. We had the HOA go after us because we crazy nuts have Christmas lights up after Christmas. So we're inside most of the time. We'll have the lights on inside.
Excellent. I don't have a Saint of the Week. I'm going to give you 2 movie recommendations for this weekend if you want to hang around with the family. First one is A Muppets Christmas Carol. Probably the best version of A Christmas Carol ever made. And second one is A Wonderful Life. I know Fwaz is not going to like it, but it's A Wonderful Life. I think it's a fantastic film. I think it's
all
the
right.
angelic. I get the angelic part. That's absolutely terrible. I give you that, but it is such a great pro-life message. It is such a great contrast of community, thinking locally and acting locally. Look what happens without one man doing what he needs to do to save his town, how the town goes to absolute garbage. In fact, on my radio show tomorrow, I'm going to give an hour-long defense of It's a Wonderful Life. A, because I truly believe it, and B, it's Friday, and I need to burn an hour of time because there's nothing else to talk about. So
love to check that out.
But I know Fwaz gave. Yeah, he was like, nah, It's a Wonderful Life. And I respect Fwaz enough to make it my point here. But A Muppets Christmas Carol, I think everybody can agree, is probably the best version of A Christmas Carol ever made. And you can all enjoy it regardless. And that's a fantastic
Muppets doing well, yeah.
It really is. It's only 88 minutes long, too, so everybody should be able to stay up for it. But yes, Merry Christmas from all of us here at News from the Pew. We're so glad you guys stopped by. Like, subscribe, and share the News from the Pew. And we will talk to you guys in the new year. God bless, and Viva Cristo Rey.